All right, are we live, everyone? We are live once again with the ARCA Racing podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans. Colby Evans, aka Starting Park, are here starting part of podcast right out with a cough. But welcome to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Colby Evans. We have a fun show for you guys today. Just a review show. No ARCA races this weekend, so we are just reviewing this past weekend's races. A rare ARCA doubleheader where two different ARCA divisions are racing on the exact same weekend. We have the ARCA Menard Series West Division at Colorado National, and of course the main series division at Charlotte. So we will be reviewing those two races. Unfortunately, one was not really a race. It didn't really have a chance to get underway before rain ruined it. So we'll talk about that one first. And then we'll talk about Charlotte, which was probably the best main ARCA race of the entire season so far. It's going to be hard to top this one. Charlotte ARCA is usually a really, really strong race. And this year definitely delivered, and I'm excited to talk about that. But before I get into it, I'm going to go through my little intro, go through the beginning of every single podcast, and we'll jump right into the ARCA action. So you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media at Starting Park Car on Twitter. We are close to 7,000 followers on X. Just a little over 300 followers away. So if you like what you see here, go give me a follow there. We have just hit 2,500 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So I want to say a really sincere thank you to the OGs of the channel and the people who have just recently joined the channel. Thank you all so much. 2,500 subscribers. It may not seem like a big number in the true essence of YouTube channels and how many subscribers you can get, but I mean, I didn't even think I'd hit 250 subscribers when I started taking this seriously. So the fact that I hit 2,500, it means a lot, guys. So I really appreciate that. And of course, check out the Racing Experts for all NASCAR-related media, the official media partner of this podcast. So again, we're gonna get through ARCA West Chicago first because not much happened, and I want to not necessarily breeze through it, but get that over with first, and then we'll get to Charlotte. So, as we know, the ARCA Menard Series West Division has struggled this year with their car counts, their standalone car counts. We had just 12 for Kern County. I think we had only 13 for Tucson, and we only had 12 here as well. It's just been a real struggle with the car counts. It's just the weird part about it is the racing with these short fields has been great. I think it's weird how these ARCA Menard Series West standalone races with only 12, 13 car fields have actually been some of the best ARCA Menard Series races of the entire year. I think Tucson will probably go down as one of the best ARCA Menard Series events of the entire year. That was a masterclass race of tire management, and I loved it. And it only had 13 cars. So, I'm wondering, are we going to get another one of those tire management races? Now, the Colorado racetrack was one of the fresher surfaces. It was not a very, very old surface like Tucson. But at the end of the day, it was still a 150-lap race. Tire management, was still going to be a factor by the end of the race. So I'm like, okay, it's probably going to be a calm first half, and then you're going to see who saved, and then you're going to see, who pushed too hard. And unfortunately, we really didn't get a chance to even get that far. Now, they did hold the pre-race practice session the night before, which I believe all cars participated in. The Jan's Towing cars were the fastest of that session. They did have practice again. They did have, I think, another practice, the actual practice session, not the optional one. Kyle Keller was fastest in that. Again, all 12 cars participated in all these sessions. Kyle Keller was fastest in practice. Jake Bowman was on the pole. As you know, last week's podcast, if you guys watched, Kyle Keller was my pick for this race. They got going. Jake Bowman got the initial jump at the start. Not many people really jockeying for position through the pack. A couple of position changes. Trevor Huddleston had to go to the rear, so he was making his way up through the pack. And it's just like I said, everyone was just kind of feeling their stuff out, getting some laps under them. Because, like I said, in these ARCA Menard Series West races, they just kind of stabilize for the first, 50, 60 laps. and then, towards halfway, lap 80, lap 90, then you start to see who has saved their tires. You start to see who's really saved their tires and who started to abuse them. Well, unfortunately, Mother Nature didn't allow us to get there. Just 52 laps in, and it had been raining there all day. They actually moved the race up a few hours because of the torrential downpour that was coming. And just 52 laps in, we had rain come, and I don't blame these teams. I wouldn't want to stay the extra day either, especially for a 12-car race, and especially for, we stopped on lap 60. We only had 90 laps. I mean, the race, they would have stayed overnight, and the race would have literally taken another 35 minutes, 40 minutes to finish. So, I guess ARCA officials deemed it was close enough to halfway, and they called it right there. So Jake Bowman got his, is that his first win? Actually, I didn't have that in my notes. Is that his first win? It is. That is his first win. So that is Jake Bowman's first ARCA Menard Series West victory, and even though it was very anticlimactic, it was the 100th victory, ironically enough, with a 100th Napa paint scheme. It was the 100th ARCA West victory for Bill McAnally's West Series operation. So they finally got win number 100. And this is the first win for Bill McAnally's ARCA team since like 2022, 2023 with Cole Moore, I believe, at Roseville. So it's been a while since the Bill McAnally ARCA team actually won a race. Now, I doubt this is the way they actually wanted to win number 100, but I'm sure they're happy to have that on their records regardless. I'm sure they'll take it. But yeah, like I said, not really much happened because we didn't have a chance to really get anything going. We only got 52 laps in before the rain hit. Kyle Keller was second. Trevor Huddleston, he got to third. Eric Johnson Jr. fourth. Tanner Rye fifth. Robbie Keenely sixth. Todd Souza seventh. Blake Lothian eighth. Eric Red ninth. Holly Clark 10th. David Smith 11th. And Mariah Baudrillard 12th. So, yeah, like I said, nobody DNF'd. But yeah, the gold Napa cars, it was definitely a good-looking car, I'll give them that. It was probably one of the best Napa ARCA cars, definitely one of the better Napa cars we have seen out of their stable. But yeah, really not much to it, frankly, because there were a couple of battles, couple of passes, but no real, I would call, big moments of the race because we didn't have a chance to really get going. The point standings coming out of that event, luckily they were updated. Trevor Huddleston still leads the point standings. We still got our five-way battle for the championship right now. Trevor Huddleston leads the points. Tanner Reif is in second, -2. Eric Johnson Jr. is in third, -6. Kyle Keller is fourth, -7. And Robbie Keenely is fifth, -11. So realistically, logistically, you still got 5 guys. Despite these small fields, you still got 5 guys who can actually, win this ARCA West championship. So, like I said, it's amazing what this series does with its short fields, but it's a shame that the Colorado race had to be called so early due to rain, but what were they going to do? There was a heavy storm coming. They would have had to stay till the next day. Nobody wanted to do that. I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to have either. So, and that, like I said, that was pretty much ARCA West Colorado right there. There's not much to talk about. So, I wish they could have ran the whole distance, but what are you going to do? So now we're going to transfer over to probably the review that a lot of you guys, I'm sure, were here for, Charlotte Motor Speedway. Big car count. We addressed that last week. 32 cars. This was a huge car count, and I'm so happy to see it. The biggest, to put into perspective for you guys, for the ARCA viewers, this was the biggest car count outside of Daytona and Talladega. The biggest car count for an intermediate race since Kansas of 2016. That's almost 9 years ago. So to put into perspective, we really had a huge field of cars, and we had a lot of competitive cars. We pointed it out on last week's show that, coming in and looking at this entry list, you could not tell who was going to win the race. You could not tell. You did not know. And I love that. Because, a lot of times with these ARCA races, yeah, you can tell who's going to win these ARCA races. But with this Charlotte entry list, no, you could not tell. You could probably point out some clear-cut favorites, but no, okay, he's going to win. And, the thing with these Charlotte ARCA races is they always seem to be the most chaotic, that's the word I'm going for, of the intermediate races. Because with how these cars are, and, the setups that these cars can still have in them compared to Cup and Xfinity, the common consensus that I've talked to a lot of people in the garage area is that with the ARCA cars, they like them to be free. That is the common consensus. When I'm talking to a couple of the drivers that I know in this series, and then when they were driving Charlotte, they like their car to be free, not tight. As I say, loose is fast, but you don't want to go over the edge. But, yeah, it's just, and it looks like such a fun track to drive, too. But, yeah, amongst the different entries we had this weekend, we had the second Pinnacle Racing Group entry back with Austin Green in the 82. Grant Enfinger took over the 97 this week. Jason Kitzmiller was entered in the 79, only because he had to attend a graduation of his family. So he made his practice lap to get his points. That way, like I said, get his points, so that way he could, stay in the championship running order. Then we had Cletus McFarland, Garrett Mitchell. He was back for his third of 4 starts that are confirmed for the season. We'll get to him in a little bit because I know you guys are probably curious about that. We had Andrew Patterson from the East Series. Ryan Roulette was back. We had Will Kimmel in another rare main series appearance. Spencer Gallagher was back. Tim Richmond was back. Trying to think of who else. I'm looking at the entry list here. Tony Cosentino was back. Good to see him back in the ARCA Menard series. We haven't seen him in a while. And as of right now, this is William Sawalich, or this was, since we're past it now, this was William Sawalich's last main series. Now, he'll do some West races, but those are road courses. This is right now his last scheduled main series ARCA race. So, if you guys were tired of seeing William Sawalich, well, you only got to see him in a few more West races. But as of now, this is his last main series ARCA start. So, but yeah. So coming into this race, obviously, we were talking about, who's the favorite? How would Cletus McFarland, Garrett Mitchell do, because this track is anything unlike he's ever driven on before. Nothing close to Daytona and Talladega. It's probably, in my opinion, the most challenging intermediate on the ARCA circuit, not necessarily the NASCAR circuit, but on the ARCA circuit. This is probably one of the most challenging tracks because it is in my opinion, it's more of a driver's racetrack. You really have to drive the car hard here on the old pavement, especially when the track gets slick, the tires get old. It's not like Kansas, where it's not, you just kind of run the high line. Charlotte, you run all over the place. You can still run the bottom on old tires. You're not going to be as fast, but you still can, obviously. Practice came and gone. And I will say, for his very first practice session, Cletus impressed me. I think he impressed a lot of people. Being 11th on the board. Obviously, all cars did make a practice lap. It was pretty obvious in practice that we were going to have some trouble with lap cars tonight. Sorry. Take a sip of water. My throat's a little dry. That's a little better. But it was kind of obvious by the practice results that we probably we're going to have some cars that were going to get parked and some cars that were going to get flagged for going too slow. You could just tell, I was talking to some of the ARCA friends as well, and due to the big field size, they were going to be a little bit heavier on maintaining minimum speed due to the big size of cars. I'm sure if they had a smaller field, like a 25-car field, maybe it wouldn't have been enforced as hard. But with a 30-plus car field here, you can't take any chances. So I don't blame ARCA for being a little bit harder on the slower cars at the back of the field, wanting them to pick up the pace. But and probably the biggest shocker, and what I absolutely loved, Will Kimmel, the little team outside of in Indiana. You know, they were fastest, and they don't even run an Ilmore car. I think that was probably the most impressive thing of all. Will Kimmel was fastest in practice. And I'm like, okay, it's practice. Can Will keep this up for qualifying? You know, Brendan Queen was second. William Swatch was third. Lawless Allen fourth. Patrick Starpoli was fifth. I also forgot to mention that we also saw the return of the 76 car. Cole Raz was back with the Cyclone car. So, looks like they may have gotten those sponsorship issues fixed. And for the time being, they are currently back in the series. So, that's a good thing to see. We go to qualifying, and I didn't think he'd be able to do it. I really didn't. But he did it. Will Kimmel put his car on the pole. And that's probably one of the most impressive things you'll probably see in ARCA all year. That is a non-Ilmore car. And what I mean by that is an OEM-built D3 Legacy motor. D3 Ford Legacy motor. That car has a horsepower reduction. They give them a different plate than they give the Ilmore cars. I'm not even sure if the Ilmore cars get a plate. I think they do, because Ilmore's make 700 and they're not making 700. So I think they get a plate too. But they get a significant horsepower reduction. The same horsepower reduction I continue to talk about that Brad Smith gets, that's what Will Kimmel got. And he still managed to go out there and win the pole. That is impressive as hell. Absolutely impressive as hell. And I'm like, can we see Will Kimmel finally, after all these years and all these attempts, pull off his first win? It's kind of hard to believe how long Kimmel Racing has been around, and he's come so close so many times, but Will Kimmel has just never been able to squeak out that win. You know, would Will Kimmel be able to squeak out that win? And, you know, the one thing that I love about Will's car, X-Pipes, baby. Oh, my God. It sounds beautiful. That's how a race car should sound, man. It is absolutely beautiful. No one's gonna disagree with that. I mean, you could just you watch it, you hear it go by, and you just gotta look, because it's the only X-Pipe car in the field, and the fact that he put it on the pole, it's just the story was writing itself, and unfortunately, it didn't end very well. But you know, we'll get to that in a second. You know, Cletus also ended up 11th. He ended up 11th in practice and 11th in qualifying. And, you know, I'm like, you know, for a guy who has never been to an intermediate before, he out-qualified some pretty impressive people. He out-qualified Cole Raz in a car that's honestly better than his. He out-qualified Thad Moffitt, who's got experience, you know, over 50 ARCA. I think he's got close to 50 ARCA starts and multiple truck starts. He out-qualified, you know, Spencer Gallagher, you know, multiple time starts and, you know, all three of NASCAR's divisions. So, you know, he did a great job there too. So I'll give him that. He definitely did a lot better in practice and qualifying than I thought he would. So we get to the race, and, you know, my big question was, would Will Kimmel be able to hold the lead at the start? Because, you know, obviously, obviously, you know, we know, you know, you can be fast in practice, you can be fast in qualifying, you can put down a fast lap, okay? But would that speed stay consistent for the race itself? And for the time being, it definitely was. The race started, and, I mean, the 69 just takes off. I mean, for, I don't know what kind of gearing package they had, but that car just took off. I mean, Kimmel shot out to a lead of like a second and a half within the first 6 or 7 laps. Now, towards the end of lap 10, you saw the 18. He had gotten past the 28. He was starting to run him down. And I'm like, okay, you know, this is kind of what I expected. That the 18 would start to reel him in. The 69, they would miss their start to, you know, be a little bit maybe ill handling. I think Will was saying in his interview that the car was getting very free. And the 18, I mean, that car is just hooked up, because obviously it's the 18 team. By the end of lap 10, we had lost a few cars. I guess I'll go ahead and get them out of the way right now. The 9 of Nate Muller, he was another quick start and park for Fast Track. Mike Basham was brought in again as a start and park for Fast Track, and so was Matt Kemp. All of those cars were start and parks. Really sucks to see Fast Track Racing with a lot of start and parks, but, it's just hard to find drivers right now. It's hard to find drivers right now, and, at the end of the day, they're fielding 4 full-time cars. They can't just leave one at the shop. So it does suck to only see one of the 4 Fast Track Racing entries run the whole race, but, it's just that happens sometimes. I'm just glad it wasn't all 4 like Kansas. At least Cosentina was able to run the distance. But unfortunately, the honeymoon period came to an end very quickly, as on lap 12, Kimmel, literally right as they went to commercial, Kimmel, I think he said something dropped or it didn't sound right, and that was it right there. He went straight to the garage. And it's like, man, what a shame. I don't think he would have won the race, but with how this race played out, I would not be shocked if he got a top 2, top 3 finish. I don't know if he would have won, but he would have came very close. But man, what a shame. What a shame, man. We were riding high. Everybody in my Discord group and, group chats, we were all losing our minds, because not only was Will, competitive, he was leading, and you don't see that very often. We were so happy to see somebody new leading, because you don't see that very much. It's kind of the same people, so. Oh, that broke my heart for Will and the guys, but, that's racing. What are you going to do? I just hope their motor's not hurt too bad, because it really is a good motor for them, even though it's not an Elmore. It really is a good motor that they have in their stable. And while that happened too, we had other drama up front. The 28, Brendan Queen, he hit the wall. I believe he blew a right front tire. They did not throw a yellow for that, so he had to go on pit road, and he lost 2 laps. So we lost a couple of heavy hitters right out of the gate. We lost the 69 due to engine troubles, and then we lost the 28 to a blown tire. Now, he got back out on track. He was running lap times capable of winning the race, but he was 2 laps down. And, in these short ARCA races, there's just not enough time to make up 2 laps. 1, maybe. 2, probably not. So, yeah, lots of attrition there. So then that gave the lead to William Sawalich. And, as we're like, oh, is it just going to be another William Sawalich show? Because I'm like, I want to see something different here, but, what are you going to do? So, they're running. William Sawalich, he's pulling out to a decent lead. Austin Green's about a 1.5 seconds back, and then you got the other competitive cars battling throughout the rest of the top 5 and top 10, like Enfinger, Scott, Jankowiak, Moffitt, Starpoli, Mitchell, Buse, Gallagher, Robusto. And it's pretty good battles. I mean, you got people running the hard top all the way to the bottom. Multi-groove Charlotte racing. When you actually can get ARCA cars that can multi-groove race, it's a lot of fun to watch, because these cars fly off the corner. It's a lot of fun to watch. We had our first caution on lap 34, debris. By this point, like I said, we had lost another car, Brad Smith. I knew Brad was probably going to end up getting parked, sadly. Just like I said, the super speedway car is not up to par with what needs to be on a track like this. So I know he gave it his best shot, but I wished he could have ran the whole race. He attempted, but it just didn't work like Kansas. Now we come to the moment I'm sure you guys are all here to talk about. Cletus McFarland. We had our debris caution. We go back to green, and a lot of people pitted here. We had a lot of cars pit because you could go the rest of the way on fuel. I believe you could go the rest of the way on fuel or tires. So I'm not sure the exact reason why they pitted, but it left Cletus on the front row with Grant Enfinger. And I was curious. I'm like, wait, did Cletus pit and get out front, or are they leaving him out? And when the announcer said that they were leaving, that Cletus had stayed out, I audibly said to my dad, I'm like, oh no. I'm like, no, 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 no. This guy has never restarted on the front row in an ARCA race. I think he has in a Crown Vic, but that's 100% different. And he's on old tires in the outside lane. So it's like you mix old pavement at Charlotte, because Charlotte's pavement's almost 20 years old. Rookie driver who has never restarted on the front row, and he's in the outside lane at Charlotte, which routinely, if you guys have seen Charlotte before, it does not always get the best restart. And I looked at my father and I said, this is not going to end well. And sure enough, exactly what I called it. I called it exactly what was going to happen. Cletus spun the tires. The 18 was all up under him. Cletus gets turned, hits the 55. She goes into the wall. Calamity ensues behind him. And I think it ended up being almost a 10, if not a 10 car plus pileup on the front stretch. And I'm like, oh man, not a good look. But, I don't blame him 100%. I really blame I put a lot of the blame on his crew chief. His crew chief was actually Scott Zipadelli, one of the, more well-known NASCAR crew chiefs. He was Tony Stewart's crew chief for a long time. Scott should have been smarter than to not put his driver in that position. You either bring him down, get him some fresh tires, or have him drop behind. That was a really dumb position for him to be in. He was not ready. He should not have been there. I understand you want Cletus to learn, but he should not have been in that position, because look what happened. I think anybody could have seen that coming. And obviously Cletus, if you watched his vlog, which by the way, I recommend you guys go watch his vlog, he did some test runs down the backstretch before the restart, and he said he felt amped. He said he felt ready, and you can watch his video. He goes to hit the gas, and he is not moving. So, yeah, just a tough situation. Isabella Robusto's really tough year continues. And I feel so bad for her. Her championship run's already done. I think we're only about a quarter of a way through the season. 23 is Spencer Gallagher. His return to ARCA has been nothing short of crap. He's pretty much wrecked in every race. The 18, he sustained a lot of front-end damage and rear-end damage to his car. The 07 was in it. 57 was in it. They all got tiny pieces of it. The 2 slid around. Cletus, he did get some damage, but it wasn't race-ending by any means. He was right back going again. And he literally his thumbnail says, I blew it. And, I wouldn't put all the blame on him. I really wouldn't. It wasn't all his fault. I really wish Biffle, his driving coach, and Zipadelli had been smarter than, don't put him in that position to fail. Obviously, I know they want him to learn it and be successful, but like I said before just a few minutes ago, you had to think that this was going to happen. He's not ready. He hasn't had the experience. He's on old tires at a track that where you have old tires, you're a sitting duck. So just a really, really, really crappy situation, and I hated it for Cletus because, the guy already, he's got that personality whether you love it or you hate it. Now, I love it, but you got some people who don't like it. So, and I hope this doesn't affect people's look towards Cletus McFarland. He's a fun character. He's a fun guy. He actually got, fined for hitting the pace car during the race, which I don't know why they allowed him to do that, or why he thought that was a good idea. But, hey, I guess you want to have fun. So, but yeah, so that took out a lot of cars. We got back going green again. Literally only ran for a few laps until the scheduled break. By this point, Austin Green had taken the lead. Now, Butterbean, he had tried to get back some laps, but again, he was 2 laps down. So the cars that, were just 1 lap down, he just, he couldn't get there. He just could not get back to, if he had 1 lap down, he would have gotten the free pass. But with the lack of cautions, he just was not going to get back to the lead lap. The highest he would go would be about 13th or 14th. And what this crash also did was really damage some of the other competitive cars, like I said, like the 20 of Lawless Allen. He got major front end damage that, he couldn't be competitive for the rest of the race, as well as, like I said, the 18. Now, the 18 was still driving the wheels off that car. Probably the most competitive race I've seen William Sawalich honestly have to run in his JGR tenure, which is good for him. I mean, if anything, you could actually say William Sawalich actually learned some racecraft in this race. I mean, he had to go from the back to the front numerous times. He actually learned some racecraft. So this was actually a very beneficial ARCA race for him. But it was now clear coming out of the lap 50 break that the new favorite for the race was going to be Austin Green. He was going to be hard to beat. And sure enough, even coming out of the race break, he was able to pull away. I'm trying to get to my next pieces of notes here. Hang on, guys. There we go. Now, the 97 could initially hang with him on the start. Could hang with him on the initial start, but man, those pinnacle cars are just so hard to beat. And, I figured if there's one guy who could maybe steal this, it would be the 97, because, you have a great driver in Grant Enfinger, and you have a great crew chief in Frank Kimmel. But, the power underneath that hood of the Pinnacle Racing Group. And you got Shane Huffman. I mean, you got Shane Huffman. He's one of the best minds in the business, too. I'm sure that helped. So, the 82 was able to get the lead. Like I said, even with the damage, man, the 18 car so strong. I'm sure the bent-up rear bumper, allowing extra air, that didn't hurt. Made him even faster. But, yeah, so the 82 was able to pull away to a lead. The 18 could get to him, but it felt like William Sawalich more or less used up his stuff trying to run down the 82. We did have one more caution for debris, but it didn't really make a difference. The 82 just did the exact same thing, They were kind of neck and neck the first couple laps, but gradually the 82 would start to build a gap. And actually, towards the end of the race, William Sawalich, you could tell he had used up his stuff. The 97 and the 6, which, by the way, LeVar and Grant Enfinger were putting on one hell of a battle. One hell of a battle for second place. They actually ran down the 18 while battling each other. So, that was pretty impressive. And then they actually both ended up passing the 18. So the 18 fell back to 4th. By this point, the remaining cars that were on track were pretty spread out. Austin Green was laying down a torrid pace. He'd actually lapped up to 6th by the checkered flag. So yeah, he had lapped, Buse, Cletus, Starpoli, and he had just lapped Thad Moffitt, I think, on like the white flag or something. So, but Austin Green gets his first career ARCA Menard Series victory. The Pinnacle Racing team go back to victory lane, but it's not the 28. It is the team car. So we are 5 ARCA races into the 2025 season, and the Pinnacle Racing Group operation has won 4 of them. Because, they won Daytona. Then they won, they did not win Phoenix. Oh, they won 3 of them. Sorry, I got that wrong. My apologies. They've won 3 of them. Phoenix, dang it, Daytona, Kansas, and this one. Obviously, Phoenix was won by the 18 crew, Brent Cruz, and then Lawless Allen won Talladega. So, my apologies there. But yeah, they've won 3 of the 5 races so far this year. So, that's a pretty good start to the season for them. Grant Enfinger comes away in second. A great owner points day for the 97 car. LeVar Scott in third. Another great run for him. He's just this close, man, from getting that first win. William Sawalich fourth. Another top 5 for Andy J. Great run for Andrew Patterson with his own operation in 6th. I did not know he worked for Jordan Anderson's team, so that's pretty cool to find out. Thad Moffin 7th, Patrick Starpoli 8th, Garrett Mitchell, Cletus McFarland, another top 10 in 9th, and Laney Buse rounding out the top 10. Tony Cosentino 11th, really good run for Fast Track. Jeff Schofield 12th, Lawless Allen, like I said, with his damage, he just couldn't run well with the damage he had on the left front. 13th, Brendan Queen, we mentioned him. You know, he was he was just riding around there 2 laps down. There was just nothing he could do without a caution, so he was stuck in 14th. Ryan Huff 15th, Brian Dowsett 16th, Michael Maples 17th, Rick Goodale, Spotter Rick. He was actually a spotter primary for the 31 car. He made his debut. Didn't mention him, but he was 18th. Alex Clubb 19th, Brayton Laster 20th, a brand new car for the Peterson stable. Poor Cole Raz. You didn't hear me mention him the entire race because literally on the opening laps he had an electrical problem. So he lost 29 laps in the garage. So they were a non-factor for the whole race in 21st. And then you had poor Tim Richmond. I mean, that car was beat to crap from rear damage to front damage. He was involved in that Cletus pileup. Casey Carden was 23rd. Isabella Robusto ended up 24th. 25th was Spencer Gallagher. Ryan Roulette, I'm not sure what happened to him. Mechanical problem in 26th. Brad Smith 28th. Will Kimmel 27th. Will Kimmel 28th. Matt Kemp 29th. Mike Basham 30th. Nate Muller 31st. And, of course, Jason Kitzmiller, by virtue of his practice lap, was scored in 32nd. So, like I said, very fun race. Very fun ARCA race. You know, this is where the series, when we can get our big fields, man, this is where the series really shines. You know, I know everyone loves to crap on it, but, you know, ARCA does well. You know, for every bad race, every couple of bad races we do have some good races mixed in there. And, you know, I want to say that the series, yeah, I know the parity is not really there. It's the 18 and the 28 most weeks, but you still can't say that there is some good racing going on. You know, and I know Daytona and Talladega are their own animals. I'm not going to talk about those there. But this really was a good race. And I feel like the Charlotte ARCA race always gives us something odd. In a good way. And I always love coming to Charlotte for the ARCA Menard series. I really hope it's a mainstay for years to come. So, coming out of the race, we have a new points leader. LeVar Scott has taken over the points championship. Obviously, Brendan Queen having a poor finish has really hurt him. He is back to second. He is in a tie with Lawless Allen. They are both 10 points behind. Now, Andy J, I mean, has that been updated? Hang on. I want to make sure these are updated. Because I feel like that's from last week. Hang on, guys. I'm trying to make sure I get these right point standings pulled up. Hang on 1 second, guys. I'm just trying to make sure I get these point standings right. Okay. So they were right. Okay. I just wanted to be sure. So, yeah. Brendan Queen and Lawless Allen are currently tied for second right now. Each minus 10. Andy J, but we know he's not full-time. He's minus 14. And that's pretty much it for your championship battle. It is between LeVar Scott, Brendan Queen, and Lawless Allen. One of those men will be your champion for this year. Kitzmiller, he's too far back now. 51 points. And Robusto, she's almost 100. It's just, yeah, poor Robusto. As for the Owners' Championship right now, the Owners' title is currently being led still by the Joe Gibbs 18 car. Right now, the next car behind him is the Max Siegel 6 car, which is minus 13. So, still a pretty close battle right now for the Owners' Championship and the Drivers' Championship. On the whole, I give the ARCA Menard series out of 10. I give it a solid 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. I think this was probably will go down as the best ARCA main intermediate race of the year. Probably one of the top 5 ARCA races in general for the year. So, And that's good to have some positivity to talk about. Cletus did take blame, in his vlog video and his TV interview. He announced that his next race will be Bristol. So, yeah, so we'll have to wait until Bristol to see Cletus back. That'll be for a few months. I'm sure he'll be in a truck at some point this year, too. Wouldn't shock me if he's in a truck at Talladega. The next ARCA Menard Series event is, again, we are having an off week. The next event is Michigan. So hopefully we can get another big field for that. The ARCA Michigan races can usually be pretty fun. So looking forward to that one, obviously. Now, in terms of my ARCA announcement that I hinted at last week, can't really go any more into it. I just wanted to tell you guys I will be driving Iowa Speedway. So that's just probably the most happiest part about it. Even if it's not the best car in the field, by far, it's just happy to know I'll be driving in my home track race. That just means a lot to be able to say I'm going to get to do that. Even if it's only for a few laps, I just get to say I did it, and that's the main reason why. But, yeah, that was the ARCA podcast. I do recommend you guys go check out Cletus's. If you're a Cletus fan, of course, go check out Cletus's vlog. It's a lot of fun. Always brings a lot of energy. And, of course, like and subscribe to the channel. Again, cannot say enough for people who tuning in right now. We reached 2,500 subscribers. Just thank you all very much for the continued support. I really, really appreciate it, guys. Like I said, updates with the vintage car before we get out of here. Like I said, I'm going to have a video on that tomorrow addressing why I haven't been posting any content with the vintage car. We've really just had mechanical problem after mechanical problem with it. But, I mean, that's what happens when you buy a race car that's 10 years old or, nearly 20 years old. So, like I said, check out all the other stuff on the channel. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on, looks like, next week's show for a preview show. So, thank you again, guys, for tuning in tonight. I've been Colby Evans, starting Park Car. Give you all the goodbye salute. And, yep, we'll see you on next week's show. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in tonight. So long.